What's up, guys? Welcome into Good Morning Lambeau. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. You can text us 865-658-5824. Flying solo for the time being. I'm sure Tim will be joining us here in a second as he gets settled in. But here to talk a little Packers-Bears as we're one day closer to the division rivalry down in Chicago. Should be a fun game to watch. Before we get started here, let's go ahead and give a quick shout out to the good folks over at Ticket King, the official ticket provider of Packer Fan Total Access Live. Wisconsin-based since '92, specializing in Packers tickets. They're Wisconsin's largest ticket source with offices next to Lambeau and in Milwaukee. Click on the link in the video description and it'll send you to their website, theticketking.com. You can register for free as a customer and go ahead and start shopping for your Packers tickets. Again, that is Ticket King, the official ticket provider of Packer Fan Total Access Live. All right, I think we got Tim joining us in here now. What up, Tim? How you doing this morning, big dog?
I definitely did not just wake up 4 minutes ago. I promise.
There you go. We love the honesty, Tim. Love the transparency there, man. So
you guys know I'm such a morning person, right?
Good morning.
Tim just rolled out of bed, and I'm on my third stogie. You know what I'm saying? We're out here getting this thing cranked up. But no, it's I tell you, man, we woke up, it was about 40, I think it was 48 degrees, something like that. Just absolutely perfect, man. So
you love it. You love the cool weather.
I'm telling you, getting a break from the heat. It's been a very warm fall too, so it's nice just to, like I said, get a little break from it. But let's go to the chat. I know we got several people filing in. Good to see everybody in here. That's right. Daryl says, "Good morning, Clayton. Coffee time." Yes, sir. I'm on my second cup. Mandy's got the Christmas mugs broke out. Tim, y'all broke those out yet, man?
No, not yet. Not yet. We're still going through decorations.
Definitely. Nick McSwain in the chat said, "Good morning, PTA. Really wanted to see Mike Tyson knock out Jake Paul." Let me get this fixed here. Knock out Jake Paul. LOL. Hopefully I can move around like that when I'm 60, though. Yeah, Nick, I think 90% of the country was wanting to see Tyson just come out and lay him out. I was at the barbershop yesterday, Tim, and was chatting with a guy that was cutting my hair, and he's like, "You gonna watch the fight?" I'm like, "Hell yeah, I'm gonna watch the fight, man." I'm, grew up watching Tyson just dominate people. And he said, "How you think it's gonna go?" And I said, "I think it's I don't want to say it's a fake fight, but I think it's designed to go the distance. So both fighters maintain a little bit of respect, make it look as competitive as you can." I said, "But honestly, I think Jake Paul could probably take Tyson right now. Tyson is so old, man, and you've seen it. I mean,
you saw Jake Paul. I mean, first of all, I'm not a huge Jake Paul fan at all.
Me neither. Yeah,
right? But yeah. I am a fan of the respect that he showed to Mike Tyson in the ring.
Bingo.
Yeah. And honestly, he probably could have knocked him out, and he didn't. So, I don't know. I know they did it to try and help the sport of boxing, but I don't know how much it helped. It was kind of tough to watch, but a lot of respect for Tyson for hanging in there and going the distance. If it was 3-minute rounds, it might have been a different story. But
exactly, yeah.
Hey, it was cool to see. You don't see that every day. 58-year-old fighting a 27-year-old. So
yeah, and again, I like that Jake Paul showed the respect he did for Tyson at the end. Now, listen, there's some people on the other side that go, when Tyson landed that left hand early, Tyson let out the throttle. It was almost like, okay, if I knock him out right now, I ain't gonna get paid the money that might be behind the scenes here. It kind of felt like it was geared that way.
I'll tell you what. Shout out to the fight of the night.
Taylor
Serrano, and congratulations to Amanda Serrano, who won that fight. I don't care what anybody says.
And shout out to Netflix for having an absolutely garbage product, by the way. It was so bad, Tim. It was so bad. I've got internet service here and the download and upload speed that could fuel a rocket ship. And we were spinning there telling me on my screen it's my internet connection. I'm going, you guys lost your mind.
They kept making mine do a speed test, and it kept showing like fast speed. It's like, yeah, keep telling me it's not my internet. Netflix.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you.
It was hilarious too that many people screen froze right when it showed Mike Tyson's ass pre-fight. Boy, let me tell you, that was hilarious. But anyway, you can tell the people who've never been in a locker room too playing sports. They were like, "Oh, this is Oh, how despicable, my boys. Y'all have no idea.
Yeah, you wouldn't last 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, let's talk Packers here. That's what everybody came for. I apologize, but it was a huge event. It was in Jerry World. Jerry got paid a pretty good chunk. To the best of my knowledge, if I understood correctly, Jake Paul got paid $40 million for winning, and Tyson got $20 million. So it's good to see Mike make a little bit more money there on the backside of the career. But yeah, he's again, it is what it is. But let's move on.
Hopefully that was the last fight. I'm a Tyson fan. I'd rather him not step into the ring again.
I completely agree, man. All right, so we got a little bit of bad news here yesterday, obviously. And I seen the tweets, and we're going to try to keep it as positive as we can. But Matt Schneidman tweeted out, Marshawn Lloyd has appendicitis, and that's why he missed practice today. LaFleur was quoted as saying, you can't make this stuff up. And then Matt Schneidman had quote tweeted his own tweet and said, Packers opened Lloyd's 21-day window to return from IR because of an ankle injury on Wednesday. Now he has appendicitis. LaFleur said Packers are talking to the league. Normal rules say the Packers have 21 days to either activate Lloyd or end his season. New injury throws a wrinkle. So the league may be a little bit, a little bit forgiving there. They may say, you know what, it's a new injury. And when I say injury, I mean appendicitis. I've seen people on Twitter, this guy's going to be a bum. He's just, he's always going to be hurt, this and that. Guys, you can't do anything about appendicitis.
Nobody has control over appendicitis.
What are we talking about here?
That's terrible.
Yeah, exactly. Matt Schneidman, there was the one. So that was the other tweet that I was just wanted to highlight, was just them talking about they are talking to the NFL to see if they can maybe extend that window. Now, listen, appendicitis usually don't set you back too far, right? Wasn't it Joe Burrow that just missed like 1 week or something, Tim?
Something like that. Yeah. And my question is, it's not technically an injury, right? That would be like illness. Would that go into the illness category, I wonder?
Yeah, it kind of feels like it would, right? I mean,
I would think so. It's definitely an NFI if they're going to call it an injury. So.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see. Again, he's not playing this week. I'm pretty sure he was already ruled out. We'll get to the Packers injury report here in a second. Another one that came up, Matt Schneidman, same shoulder that Jordan Morgan has injured a couple times already this season, is the one he aggravated yesterday. Quote, we're kind of going through that process of what's next, LaFleur says. So, this is a situation where it feels like with Jordan Morgan, I don't want to say they keep rushing him back, but rather than letting it completely heal, it's just kind of been nagging him all year long. The good thing is you get Josh Myers back, it sounds like. So with Josh Myers returning, you'll have Sean Ryan at right guard, with Jordan Morgan probably missing. Again, we'll hit the injury report in a second. And then obviously Elton Jenkins will be playing left guard. This isn't like catastrophic or anything, but it is a little frustrating because, look, I've seen the tweets, people talking about, players like Cooper DeJean that are having a great year. And here we took Jordan Morgan in the first round, and did we really need an offensive lineman? I can understand the argument on both sides, but hindsight's 20/20, gang. Like, you can't, it's very well could have been Cooper DeJean battling an injury and struggling this year, and Jordan Morgan just being off the charts, right?
Yeah,
you see a multitude of that going on across the league. So
I still love the Jordan Morgan pick. I mean, I look at our secondary. Does our secondary need Cooper DeJean right now? I mean, I don't feel like there's massive holes in our secondary. So if there were, I could see the argument. Hey, you took a lineman, you didn't help the secondary at all, but we loaded up in that secondary. So I'm good with the Jordan Morgan pick. I think he's going to turn out to be a hell of a pro.
Yeah. And the other thing with that too, like, you don't know how Cooper DeJean would play in this defense either. Like, exactly. A perfect example is when you look at our defensive front. Many people are like, all of a sudden, all of our pass rushers are just bums, right? And I guarantee you, if you took our pass rushers and threw them into another defense where they're just pinning their ears back and going after the quarterback all four, you probably get much better results, right? So it's hard to kind of cross-examine that and say, okay, here, compared to what the Philadelphia Eagles do with Cooper DeJean and with what our boy Hafley is doing here, in Green Bay, obviously. And really, when you look at the tape, you're looking at a lot of cover 3 calls, right? A lot of cover 3 calls. And if quarterbacks aren't going to throw into the teeth of the defense at a cover 3 call, then that nickel corner, if that's what Cooper DeJean was playing, he wouldn't be getting the opportunities that he's getting with Philly, right? And it all comes down to you take that, different coaches, different schemes, maybe not even just like hugely different schemes, but schemes in which they focus a little bit more on this aspect of stopping the opponent's offense. And then you throw into the fact that, okay, now you're playing this opponent this week. We're going to change our game plan up completely. There's just a lot of ifs and buts there, you know? So now if you're telling me we could get the same performance that Cooper DeJean is getting in Philly, would you rather have that over Jordan Morgan, who's been banged up? There's no one on the face of the earth that would say no. Like, you obviously, if you could choose a healthy player playing at a high level over a player who's been battling through an injury, you're going to take the healthy player. So I try not to get into those conversations too much because it does turn into that whole hindsight issue. But anyway, again, it's and it comes down to too, what if Cooper DeJean ends up being nothing after this year? Are you going to be the one to go back and go, hey man, I was wrong on that. He had one good year, right? So
we know how much people like to admit that they're wrong. So,
tell you, I try. I honestly, Tim, I try to be good about that. I really do, man. Like when I screw stuff up, I want you guys to hear it from me first because I think other people they create this facade that you've got to be right all the time. And man, the reality is self-edification is people repellent. When people say "I told you so," they think people love hearing that for some reason. I'm telling you, people cringe when you say it. So I always want to be the person to say, hey, look, I screwed this up and this up. Now, when we do get stuff right, we want to point out here's how we were seeing it at the time, because in the future, maybe it'll go in the same direction. So anyway.
Absolutely. And I think if you're willing to admit when you're wrong, there's nothing wrong with you pointing out when you're right.
Absolutely. Yeah. No doubt about it. All right. So the simple injury report, Matt Schneidman put out here, Packers final injury report versus the Bears. Out is Jordan Morgan and Marshawn Lloyd. So they are both ruled out. Okay. Doubtful is Colby Wooden. I think we could pretty much say he's not going to play. And then questionable is Jair Alexander and Evan Williams. Josh Myers is good to go. So as far as the offensive line, not overly concerned there. Don't get me wrong. The Bears have a solid defense, but the fact that you're going to march out there, Rasheed Walker, Elton Jenkins, Josh Myers, Sean Ryan, and Zach Tom, I feel just as good about that as if we had Jordan Morgan rotating there at right guard, because I imagine that's how it would go with Josh Myers being healthy now. So as far as Jair Alexander and Evan Williams, I think that history would suggest one of those two are going to play, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're both out, and I wouldn't be surprised if they both play. But basically questionable status means there's a 50% chance of each player playing. With it being the Bears too, Tim, and I'm not saying you're willing to overlook any opponent. Listen, the Bears can beat the Packers. That is a realistic thing. That can happen. I'm not saying that there's no way they can't beat the Packers. But if there was a game on your schedule based off current status of the team and the momentum they may or may not have at the exact second in the season, I'd feel good about sitting both of them personally, because that offense really has struggled in Chicago. How do you see that? Would you rather them, I don't know, I don't want to sway your opinion here, and say rush, but would you rather them play Jair Alexander and Evan Williams a little banged up, or just let them rest up here?
Oh boy, that's a tough one, because the technical side of me wants to err on the side of caution, especially because, the point you just made, the Bears are not, they're not lethal on offense lately. Mm-hmm. But man, I'm tired of seeing Ja miss games, man. I want to see Ja back on that field. And Evan Williams, I think, is one of those guys where you're going to have to handcuff him to the radiator if you don't want him to play. So I think they're both going to try and go. But ultimately, it's not up to them either. So I think it's up to the staff and how they want to go about this. We have some depth at corner. We definitely have depth at safety. And I think, our supporting cast can get the job done in Chicago for sure. But me as a fan, I want to see my boy Jair back on the field. And I know everybody wants to see Evan Williams out there. So hopefully, maybe it's going to go down like you said. Maybe one of the two is going to go. Maybe they hold Evan out one more week and Jair hits the field, or vice versa. But I'd like to see at least one of those guys on the field tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that's a realistic ask too. I really do. So we'll keep an eye on that as we move forward. Now, as far as the Bears injury report, just a simple version here from Kevin Fishbane, who covers the Bears. Bears injury report: out Tevin Jenkins and Kyron Abagaji. Amagaji, sorry. Questionable. Yeah, not really. Questionable Montez Sweat and Tarvarius Moore. So there's their 50% chancers. And then no injury designations for Darnell Wright, Braxton Jones, and Darrell Taylor. So they'll be back in the lineup. So I'd be real with you, Tim, outside of Montez Sweat here. I'm going, who the hell are these guys? Questionable Montez Sweat is huge. If Montez Sweat doesn't play, he's arguably their best pass rusher from what I understand. We'll look at the PFF preview here shortly when we get into a little later in the show. Tarvarius Moore obviously was a solid player several years ago. I don't know how he's playing right now currently, but Tevin Jenkins and Kyron Amagaji being out, I think that actually might be their starting tackles that missed last week as well. I know Amagaji is a tackle, at least he was coming out in the draft, so we'll touch on that again here. Actually, we could probably hit it right here and see if it shows just as offensive line. So, yeah, no way of really knowing. So, we'll look at it on the PFF preview for sure. But what do you think about the Bears here? Again, very similar when you look at our injury report compared to theirs, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I guess it also depends on, like you said, who, as far as these guys is not going to go positionally. Obviously, if the Bears are down some O linemen, the offense is probably going to be even more terrible, which bodes well for us if we're going to have guys missing the game due to missing the game on the defensive side of the ball. So it kind of balances it out. I'm with you. I look at this list, and Montez Sweat is a guy that, if he's out, I'm going to be happy. That's a name. That's a stud on that Bears team. And everyone else, yeah, I'm kind of looking like, who the heck are these guys? But we'll see. Yeah, I mean, it's good. It's good when you see an injury report and both teams have issues. Sometimes you'll see these matchups and you got an injury report. There's 8 guys on one, and then there's like 1 on another, and you got a completely healthy team. But bottom line is we do have some guys coming back. We've got some guys that have some setbacks. I think it's going to be a good game, and we'll see. We'll know more tomorrow when we get the the final designations and stuff.
Yeah. Definitely. If you guys would take a quick second, hit that like button for us, help other Packer fans find this channel, find this content. We appreciate y'all hanging out with us here on this Saturday morning as college game day is already roaring. Watch the intro there. Going to be a really good matchup between Georgia and Tennessee today down here in the SEC. And obviously it's a Packers podcast, but go look at the consensus big board. If you got time today, take a quick glance at the consensus big board, look at some of the positions of need for the Packers and say, all right, what teams from what players from these two teams are actually playing today, and do a little scouting. Man, that's what I usually do when I'm watching college ball. So makes it a lot more enjoyable in that regard. Moving along here. So this is your week 11 play sheet, as Tim likes to say.
Let's go.
You've got the matchups on the week. You got the standings. Shout out to Nerding on NFL for this awesome graphic we get every single week. Let's go through and just kind of look at some of these games that may or may not have implications on the Packers. Obviously, Washington and Philadelphia already played on Thursday night. Philly won that game. In the 1 o'clock slate on Sunday, I'm going to start saying 1 o'clock because that's my time, guys. Hopefully, you guys know. Obviously, Central, it's going to be noon, so it'll be a little easier for me to keep up with moving forward. So since we're on Eastern Standard Time over here, so Baltimore at Pittsburgh, 1 o'clock. That'll be that's going to be a dandy right there. That's two of the best teams in the league right now. I'm really excited to watch that matchup, or at least catch a couple plays out of it. You got the Colts at the Jets. You got the Raiders at the Dolphins. You got the Jaguars at the Lions when the 1 o'clock window. Obviously, we're going to be watching that one. Listen, I don't think there's much of a chance that Jacksonville beats Detroit, although you guys know any given Sunday anything can happen. We're definitely going to be pulling for the Jaguars in that game. Minnesota at Tennessee. That's going to be another tough one for the Packers' sake. Wanting the Titans to beat the Vikings, probably not going to happen. And then, of course, in the 1 o'clock window, we got our Green Bay Packers at the Chicago Bears. We also got the LA Rams at the Patriots. So you're obviously pulling for the Patriots in that game. And then Cleveland at New Orleans wraps up the 1 o'clock window. And obviously, we want the Browns to somehow, some way beat the Saints. And if I remember correctly, the Saints are sitting at 3-7. Yep. They're at 3-7, and Cleveland is currently sitting at 2-7. So we'll just call that one the 1 o'clock window tulip bowl there, Tim. But
that's Jake Paul, Mike Tyson all over again.
Exactly right. Exactly. So we got some games, and we're going to get to a playoff simulator here in a second and kind of show you what happens if these teams win these games. But That's your 1 o'clock slate. In the 4 o'clock window and the 4:25 window, you've got the Falcons at the Broncos. Obviously, you want the Broncos to win that game. The Seahawks at the 49ers. That one's a little tricky, but Seattle has dropped now to 4-5. San Francisco sitting at 5-4. So we're definitely pulling for the Seattle Seahawks in that game. Going to be a tough one, though, as San Francisco continues to try to get a little healthier every week. Kansas City at Buffalo is going to be an absolutely awesome game. I'm going to be checking that one out. That's two of the best teams in the AFC as well. You've really got, in my opinion, the top 4 teams in the AFC in two different games this week. And you can catch it at 1 o'clock and you can catch the 4 o'clock. That's going to be a dandy, right?
One of those 4 teams is winning the AFC this year for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And then Sunday night, the game of the week, you got the Bengals at the Chargers. Listen, I think that could be a sneaky good game. The LA Chargers are sitting at 4-5. Let's see. No. They're in the AFC. Hold on just a second. They're sitting at 6-3. So obviously they're currently in the playoffs as the standings sit right now. So you'll have the LA Chargers facing the Cincinnati Bengals, who are currently at 4-6. So what you've got is the Chargers trying to solidify themselves into one of those wild card spots. Going to be really, really tough to chase down Kansas City, who's sitting at 9-0. But you will have, like I said, the Cincinnati Bengals looking to play spoiler, and they're trying to keep their season alive too, as they're sitting at 4-6. So, and then the Monday night game of the week, game of the week. I do that in quotations there, or or air quotes, whatever you want to say. Houston Texans at the Dallas Cowboys. Man, what a stinker. And what's crazy, Tim, this happens every year. If you had talked about this matchup in week 1, you just said, man, that's going to be a hell of a ball game there, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. And, I don't know, though. Like we always talk about any given Sunday, or in this case, Monday, Dallas is definitely overdue for a win. I just think the Texans are a good team. They're probably gonna win that game.
Right, I can see that. And then, so as far as the standings, you got. Let's just go across the entire NFL real quick. The AFC East, you got the Bills in first place there at 8-2. Closest team to them is the Dolphins at 3-6. That's just wild to think about. Pittsburgh Steelers in first place in the AFC North at 7-2. The Ravens right behind them at 7-3. And again, they're playing this week, so that's just going to be a knockdown drag out. Houston leading the AFC South at 6-4. Closest team to them are the Colts at 4-6. AFC West, you've got the Kansas City Chiefs at 9-0 and the LA Chargers in second place at 6-3. Don't sleep on the Broncos too, man. They're still in the hunt. They are still in the hunt at 5-5, obviously to get in the wild card. In the NFC East, you've got the Philadelphia Eagles at 7-2, right ahead of the Washington Commanders at 7-3. Now, keep in mind that game was played after this graphic was created. So what it should look like there is now, I'm pretty sure the Eagles are now 8-2 and the Commanders are 7-4. So that may come into play for the Packers seeding a little later in the year. Detroit Lions 8-1, Minnesota Vikings 7-2, and then the Green Bay Packers sitting at 6-3. So it's looking like there's a good chance that 3 playoff teams will come out of the NFC North. Of course, it's going to get real chippy down the stretch here. NFC South, you've got the Falcons leading the way at 6-4. Closest team to them is the Buccaneers at 4-6. And the NFC West, you have got the Arizona Cardinals at 6-4 and the 49ers breathing down their neck at 5-4. So that's how the standings look as far as the divisional races across the league. Now, as far as statistically speaking, most passing yards in the league, Joe Burrow with 2,672 yards right now. Lamar Jackson right behind him, and then Kirk Cousins third. Most rushing yards, you've got Derrick Henry at 1,120 yards. You've got Saquon Barkley at 991 yards. That was before the game the other night, and Saquon had like over 200 yards of all-purpose yards, I believe, if I've seen that correctly. So he may have really, really closed that gap down on Henry. We'll see it on the new graphic next week. Chuba Hubbard has got 818 yards in third place, and then our very own Josh Jacobs is the fourth leading rusher in the league right now at 762 yards rushing, 4.8 yards per carry currently. Most receiving yards, Jamar Chase in Cincy, Justin Jefferson in Minnesota, Terry McLaurin in Washington. And then when it comes from a team statistic standpoint, most offensive yards per game. You got the Ravens leading the way at 440.2 yards per game. Then the 49ers at 412.4 yards per game. Then in third place is the Green Bay Packers at 390.6 yards per game. Right behind them is the Commanders and then the Falcons. Defensively, total yards allowed per game, the Titans still lead the way at 273.6, which shows you that stat means absolutely nothing. The Eagles in second place, 274.1 yards allowed per game. Then the Texans at 288. Chiefs at 289.9. Spags continuing to have that defense churning out there in Kansas City, and then the Broncos at 295.7 yards per game. So that's kind of your Week 11 preview. Tim, before I take this graphic down, anything else you want to point out there that I may or may not have missed? Anything you want to add at all, man?
I think the thing that's interesting to me is it's all NFC teams on the bye. I don't know if that's how they planned it, but you look at the 4 teams with the bye; they're all NFC teams. I thought that was kind of interesting. Other than that, Derek freaking Henry, 6.1 yards per carry. Guy's an absolute truck. I just continues to amaze me as he continues to get older and doesn't seem to be slowing down at all. Just really fun to watch over there on the other side there in the AFC. But no, looks like a great week for football here. The NFC West is really interesting to me because, I mean, that could be like a 4-way battle for, one of the last spots there. And actually coming down to in these next couple of weeks, that whole division could look different as far as who's in front. It's still kind of anybody's division title up for grabs, really, at this point, depending on how people finish their seasons. And I think they're all decent teams too this year. So keep an eye on that NFC West as we watch the NFC playoff picture start to kind of take shape here.
Yeah, completely agree, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I think you make a great point there in the NFC West. Cardinals at 6-4, Niners at 5-4, LA Rams at 4-5, Seattle at 4-5. So there's some good football teams in the West, no doubt. And obviously it's the ups and downs of a season. All right. So as far as the AFC standings, just a quick glimpse there from first to last. We'll just rattle them off real quick. You got the Kansas City Chiefs, Buffalo Bills, Pittsburgh Steelers, Houston Texans, Baltimore Ravens, LA Chargers there at the top. Then it goes on. Denver Broncos at 5-5. You got the Colts at 4-6, the Bengals at 4-6, Dolphins at 3-6, the Jets, the Patriots, both at 3-7. Then you got the Browns, Titans, Raiders, and Jaguars, all with just 2 wins there. So that's how the AFC stacks up. In the NFC, you've got the Detroit Lions at 8-1, the Philadelphia Eagles now at 9-2, the Atlanta Falcons at 6-4, the Cardinals at 6-4, the Vikings at 7-2. And you notice these are in ranking position because of the divisions, right? So the Vikings are the first wild card team there at 7-2. The Packers are the second wild card team at 6-3, and then you've got the Commanders who are now 7-4 will fall into that final wild card spot, right? And then you've got the 49ers at 5-4. You've got the Bears, the Seahawks, and the Rams at 4-5. You got the Buccaneers at 4-6. You got the Cowboys, the Saints, and the Panthers all with 3 wins, and then the Giants with 2 wins. So that's just to kind of keep you guys up to date on what's going on around the standings. Now let's have a little fun here. This is the playoff predictor, if you will, the playoff machine on ESPN.com. Shout out to them, and also shout out to Aaron Rodgers, who we see in the chat in here all the time. Not the Aaron Rodgers, but the Aaron Rodgers, if that makes sense. We appreciate you sending this over, and we'll use it from time to time. So basically the way this works, Tim, you can see at the bottom here. I don't know if you can see my cursor or not. So you got the divisions. I know it's a little bit smaller, but we'll keep us up on the screen for obvious reasons. So what you've got here essentially, actually, I might be able to, let me see if I can zoom this in just a touch, make it a little easier on everybody. Give me just 1 second. We'll do this, and then we'll try to pop it in there a little bit closer. I don't know if that yeah. The only problem is we definitely want to have those games at the top on the screen. So we'll zoom it in and out if we need to. But so here's what you got, guys. The bottom of your divisions, okay, and then at the top up here are all your matchups. So what we can do is pick a winner for each game, and then it'll completely adjust the playoffs, right? So let's say everything nothing goes our way for the Packers this week. Let's play kind of worst case scenario, okay? So let's say the Lions beat the Jaguars, okay? Let's say that the Rams beat the Patriots. Let's say the Saints beat the Bengals, and the Vikings beat the Titans. Let's say the Bears somehow, some way beat the Packers, right? And this is worst case scenario, right? Now let's look at the seeding here as far as San Fran and Seattle. When you look at it from that angle, Seattle's worse off than San Fran. So let's say San Fran wins that game, and then let's say that Dallas wins that game, right? So if that were to happen this week, Tim, and listen, that's a lot going wrong for the Packers. That's every single thing going wrong for the Packers. The playoffs would be the number 1 seed, the Detroit Lions, the number 2 seed, the Philadelphia Eagles. The number 3 seed would be the Falcons. The 4th seed would be the Cardinals. The 5th seed would be the Vikings. 6th seed would be the Commanders. And then the 7th seed would be the 49ers. So obviously that knocks the Packers out of the playoffs this week. If every team that we need to win loses, right, and the Packers lose to the Bears. Now let's clear the criteria and let's talk about best case scenario. What could potentially happen this week from a best case scenario standpoint? Let's say the Jaguars beat the Lions. The Patriots beat the Rams. Let's say the Titans somehow beat the Vikings. We beat the Bears. The Broncos beat the Falcons. Seattle beat San Francisco. And then we'll say that the Texans beat the Cowboys. So in that scenario there, the Packers are still the number 6 seed. All right. So it would be Detroit 1, Philly 2, Arizona 3, Atlanta 4, Minnesota 5, Green Bay 6. And then, of course, the Washington Commanders there at the 7 seed. I like this, how you can kind of do this, Tim. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to clear everything off, and I'm going to ask you, who do you think will win these games real quick so we can get a more realistic approach? Because obviously we showed you worst case scenario, best case scenario. Let's start here with the Jaguars and the Lions. Who do you think? Listen, this is how I'm asking you this question, Tim. You got to bet the farm. You got to bet everything you own, bro. Who you
Okay.
taking?
So you're going to make the non-sports better sports bet here. Okay.
Exactly.
Well, since I'm thinking with my wallet and not my heart at it on these games, where are we starting here?
Jaguars at the Lions.
Yeah, Detroit. Give me Detroit.
All right, there you go.
I just said that out loud.
Rams at the Patriots.
LA. I'll take the Rams.
Yeah, I would too. All right. The Cleveland Browns at the Saints.
Cleveland.
Oh, I like it. All right. So we got our first benefit there. You got the Minnesota Vikings traveling to Tennessee.
The Vikings.
All right. And then you've got Packers at the Bears. I think I know this one. Let's go ahead.
Just go ahead and click on AG.
All right. Let's see. The Falcons at the Broncos.
Atlanta.
All right. And I would probably lean toward Denver there just because it's at home. And, Sean Payton got that defense playing pretty well. Bo Nix is playing as well as you can ask a rookie quarterback. So I could kind of see, okay, that's one that potentially the Broncos could win, but that's cool. Seattle at San Francisco.
Ooh, Niners.
All right. And then we got the Houston Texans at the Cowboys.
Texans.
All right. So that's a pretty realistic approach. I think everybody would agree in the chat. There wasn't anything there like it was just, off the charts. So from that standpoint, the seeding would be the Detroit Lions in the 1 seed, the Philadelphia Eagles in the 2 seed, the Falcons in the 3 seed, Cardinals in the 4, Vikings in the 5, the Green Bay Packers in the 6 seed, and then the Washington Commanders in the 7th seed. So that's how
playoffs. Don't talk about it. Playoffs. You kidding?
I'm just trying to hope we win a game, another game. So that's how it sits. If you look at the bottom in bold here, guys, let me see if I can zoom in here a touch and give you guys a little bit better shot of that. That kind of shows you in the bold what teams would be in the playoffs, right? So you would basically have the Buffalo Bills coming out of the East. You'd have 2 teams coming out of the North. It'd be Pittsburgh and Baltimore. The NFC East would be Philadelphia and Washington. In the NFC North, you'd have the 3 teams we talked about: Detroit, Minnesota, Green Bay. You'd have Atlanta coming out of the South. You'd have the Arizona Cardinals coming out of the NFC West. And then back to the AFC, you would have the Kansas City Chiefs, Los Angeles, and Denver coming out of the AFC West, with the Houston Texans coming out of the South. So, again, just wanted to take a few minutes and show you guys that. I thought it was cool. Shout out to Aaron Rodgers for sending that over as an idea. That'd be a good way for us to be a little more interactive as we go in and not necessarily try to predict what's going to happen that week, but just from a realistic standpoint. Hey, Tim, how do you see this? I'll give you guys an idea of how I see it. And it should kind of paint the playoff picture for us as we move forward. So really, really cool stuff there. I think that's an awesome tool, Tim.
Yeah, this is cool. I'm sure we'll be using this more than 1 or 2 more times before the season's over.
No doubt, man.
Shout out to the other California kid, the other Aaron Rodgers. Thank you very much.
Exactly. All right. So we got a Patreon question here real quick before we wrap up hour one. I want to hit this. He sent it a couple of days ago. Listen, I'm not going to be able to give a whole lot of insight here. I'm going to be 100% transparent with everybody when we are asked these questions. But it was Will_RVA in our Patreon group. If you guys want to join our Patreon group, scan the QR code in the upper right. That'll send you to patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. We got a multitude of chats in there where you can kind of keep up with other listeners, other viewers of the show here. And you can also, we've got a questions for the show section where you can get your questions read over the air. We appreciate y'all supporting everybody. And also, if you're a member of one of those 3 tiers, it gives you access to those chats. It'll also put you in the drawing for the giveaways, just a way for us to give back to those who give to us. So what we're going to be doing this week is giving away another autographed Romeo Doubs card. And as long as you're either a member on YouTube or a member of one of the 3 tiers on Patreon, we'll make sure your name is on the Larry McCarron Pinky Wheel of Fame, and we'll give you give that away to one lucky listener. So anyway, Will RVA, hey Clayton, love the content. Was wondering if at some point you consider going over details on how the center/O-line sets protection pre-snap. Like what is the center/quarterback looking for, and then communicate to the line to adjust based on that play call and what they're reading from the D pre-snap. So appreciate the question and the idea there, Will. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on it today. That would be something really cool to kind of do in the offseason, maybe pick 3 plays and how we can see them changing the protection. But in a nutshell, what you're looking to do is, first things first, you're looking to identify the Mike. Okay, now listen, sometimes the Mike, it's not saying he's the Mike backer. When you're IDing the Mike, you're setting the protection to a center point, what I call the impact point of the pass rush. So you're trying to get the protection perfectly set to center up on what they're bringing. And what that means is, you could be strong right and they're overloaded to the weak side, and you may ID the Mike as the defensive tackle in the 3-tech, because you're looking, okay, and what you're saying there is that's the center point. So now every player on the field has got to quickly compute, okay, are we in a 5-man protection? Are we in the 6-man protection with the leak? Are we in a solid 6? Are we in a 7-man protection? What's the protection? That's going to determine which guy they're going to block. So if they're showing a will fire where they're bringing, let's say they're showing, they're going to bring 7 off the left side, typically what will happen is you'll ID the Mike on someone on that side of the line of scrimmage, and that's telling the offensive line, let's play this. Let's kind of fan this left is what they call that. Okay, so you're going to fan the protection to the left. Now, you can do that and drop 4 guys out on the left side and bring guys on the right, and that's where you get into these situations where the quarterback's got to know that's a free runner. So essentially what happens is in many offenses, the center will call out the protection, right? And the quarterback will just kind of roll with it. Now, for the more veteran quarterbacks, I'd say a large majority of the league, the quarterback's setting the protection too, right? Now, in some cases, like it was leaked out, I don't want to say leaked out, it was mentioned at a presser earlier this year. If I remember correctly, the way the Packers were doing it was so Jordan didn't have everything on his plate right off the bat. Josh Myers was setting the protection. And then as you got later in the year, what they ended up doing is Jordan was setting the passing protection, and the center Josh Myers was setting the run call, meaning who are we going to block on the run call? Because you got to also take into consideration there's many plays where there's multiple plays called coming out of the huddle. So you got to be prepared for either of those. And it's not like hey, guys, we're going to run this play. Are we ready? Are we ready? It's literally can. We're going. And you got to quickly compute that in your mind, right? So hopefully that somewhat answers your question there, Will. But it's all about what's the defense showing pre-snap, because you don't have the luxury of knowing what the actual call is. You've got to plan for the worst and be prepared, plan for the worst and be prepared in that regard. And then obviously if they drop those guys out and you got enough guys to protect, you want to make sure that you don't have a free runner. Now, if you've got a 5-man protection and they're bringing 6, you set the protection. Typically another layer to the protection is the quarterback knowing who the free runner is. And what that means is you've only got 5 blocking, they're bringing 6. One of those guys is going to be on the quarterback. And that means he knows nobody's blocking that dude. If they blitz like we think they're going to, that's on me to get the ball out on a hot read or make that dude miss, step up in the pocket, slide away from him. And
or motion my running back back sidecar for protection or something.
Yeah, exactly. You'll see that too. They'll come to the line. They'll show an overload. Okay, they come, and you'll just see Jordan. They'll set the protection, and he'll slide the running back over. And it could be a chip and release, right, like a leak, or it can be a solid, just a T safe play where he's staying in and blocking. When you hear us say T safe on Chalk Talk, the T is the running back, the tailback. Okay, if you hear us say H safe, that's the H back, which is typically a tight end in the Packers play call who is in the backfield, right? If you hear us say Y safe, it means the tight end is actually staying in and blocking. If you hear us say Y leak or T leak or H leak, that means they're chipping and leaking out, and we'll give you the specific play call of the route design in that regard. It's a lot to kind of take in and just a question live on the air, but hopefully I answered that enough for you, Will. And maybe we can get us 2 or 3 examples in the off season when we don't have actual football to talk about, we can kind of break it down and go, okay, here's 3 different looks, right? Here's how they set the protection. And when you see a quarterback get blindsided and hit, like it happened with Xavier McKinney on his safety blitz, it happened with Keyshawn Nixon on the strip sack on his nickel blitz. That is a byproduct of they weren't expecting him to blitz, and the quarterback didn't even see him coming. Like he should have known that was my guy there. Right, because the protection was set. And it's easy for me to say sitting here in my comfy office chair, Tim, like, what were they doing? They let that free burner come. There's a lot of stuff going on that football field, man.
Yep, and it's a lot of different moving pieces and a lot of things to diagnose. Your quarterback might see something. Is he communicating that to his line? Is there enough time on the play clock? We all know you want to use as much of the play clock as you possibly can to get as much intel pre-snap on that defense, but we talk about sugar all the time, and that's one of the things I love about Coach Half is he incorporates a lot of sugar into his looks, and it's tough to get a read on our defense all the time because you may see a guy mugging, and then you may change your protection to account for that quote-unquote free runner, and all of a sudden the guy's running down the field into coverage and kind of screws things up for you. So being unpredictable on defense is huge when these offensive lines are trying to set their protections. So something to be excited about for Packer fans. I think last year before with Joe Barry is we sugared, but we were a little more vanilla on some of those pre-snap looks. And these teams kind of knew what we were doing. So the interesting part about this defense to me this year is the fact that there's so much sugar incorporated that you really don't know. I mean, you might see X breathing down that line pre-snap thinking, oh boy, here we go, safety blitz, and then nope, he's 30 yards downfield making a pick. So it's fun to watch. But great question though by Will in the Patreon for sure.
Absolutely. Patreon community is awesome, man. So for those of you listening on the pod, that's going to do it for hour 1. We will see you on the other side for hour 2. We appreciate y'all. All right. Welcome back to hour 2. So, again, shout out to Will. Thank you so much, buddy. We appreciate you asking the question, and thank you for joining the Patreon group. Everybody in the Patreon group, appreciate y'all. It's awesome having that little community put together there. So, let's go to the chat.
Join it up here, right? We got the
scan that QR code in the upper right there. Right above the throwback helmet. Tim, tell them the history of that helmet, man. Tell them about how Paul Hornung, that's a game-worn helmet there. Real quick.
It's too early in the morning to be telling lies, Clayton. Come on now.
Never let the truth get in the way of a good story, Tim. Go ahead. You got the
that's a little Timmy worn helmet from my childhood. Back in the day when we were kids, Clayton, you got real helmets when you got your little Packer uniform set. Now they give you a plastic nacho bowl helmet looking thing. Poor kids. But no, that's my old Packer helmet from 1982 or 3, something like that.
Absolutely awesome.
Thanks, Mom, for finding my old helmet. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Ma.
Thanks, Ma.
All right. Coach Lynn in the chat said Tyquan Thornton was just released. That's a second-round pick by the Patriots. I think we're doing just fine with our picks. And it's so good. It's so important to point that out, Coach, because we do, and I'm as guilty as anyone. Like you see something not pan out, go your way, and you've taken your eyes off of the rest of the league and all the, I don't want to say mistakes, but the misses that other GMs have. That's a real thing, right? And I think it is important for people to throw those up in the chat and for us to identify them as they come down the pike throughout the season, because teams miss all the time, man. And to be a good GM, you just want to miss less than other GMs. There's not a 100% success rate anywhere in the league as far as making these draft picks. I remember Tyquan Thornton though. He was if I remember correctly, he was a smaller receiver, very, very fast, was going to be kind of a gadget guy. You can use him on jet sweeps, things like that. Just didn't work out there for the Patriots. And again, the only thing worse than making a bad draft pick is refusing to admit you made a bad draft pick. If it's a bad pick and he's not making your team better, got to move on. You did that with Amari Rodgers. You did that with obviously Josiah DeGuara eventually. Great dude in the locker room, just not very good at the football, at least what we were trying to accomplish here in Green Bay. When you miss on those picks, man, you've got to admit it for sure. So
that's true. And you're looking for a GM that's going to hit more than he's going to miss. And I still feel like we're there with Goody. Obviously, Goody's had a couple stinkers over the years, but it's part of the business, right? You're not going to be perfect.
Yeah. Prince in the chat, with Morgan out, Myers nursing an injury, they could get a little thin at interior offensive line. Just Monk available. We might see a little bit of Monk if somebody breaks a shoelace or something, right?
Yeah.
And again, them keeping Monk on the active roster of the 53, obviously they see a lot of upside in Jacob Monk. So
and keep in mind, the one strong suit for this Bears team is their defense. So I'm assuming they're going to be working that offensive line of ours. So it's a great point by Prince. Something to keep an eye on going into this game.
Yeah, their defense is stout, and we're going to get to the PFF preview here in a second. I'm excited about it. Drew D said Lions are due for a slip-up soon. And Drew, it kind of happened last week too, right? And you can look at it two different ways. I'm with you. I don't think they're just like this immaculate team that some people think. I think they are a great football team, don't get me wrong. I think their record shows what they are. But you're right, man. You never know when a team's going to slip up. And the other thing, though, if you look at it from the other angle last week, Jared Goff throws 5 interceptions in that game, and you still won. That gives a team a little confidence too, Yep. And you're probably going to get Jared Goff's best game coming off of that because he feels like he let the team down. And the rest of the team is like, hey, look, guys, we can overcome anything. If you can overcome 5 interceptions, I'm just kind of playing devil's advocate here. But I think you're right, though, Drew. I think they are due for a slip up, man. Hopefully,
that was incredible in that game because Houston just could not answer. I mean, all of those picks, how many of those 5 picks actually led to points? That's why Detroit won that game. I mean, pick after pick after pick, and then you watched the Texans get 3 and out after 3 and out after 3 and out. And I think that's why the game ended up like that. Didn't Detroit have like 23 unanswered points or something like that in that game, And that was the slip up and it didn't hurt them. So hopefully someone can make them pay if they make those mistakes again. But I'm with you, man. I think they're probably going to correct those issues that they had knowing that team.
Yeah. Deadfish in the chat said tomorrow starts the second half of the season with 4 games in 19 days, a mini 9-day bye, and then the final 4 games. These next 19 days will say a lot as to how this season goes. And they're like basically the large majority of them, Tim, as we pull this schedule up here, are in prime time too, man. Let's see here. So you've got the Bears 1:00, right? And then the following week, you got the Niners at 4:25 kickoff. That's 3:25 Lambeau time. And then after that, you've got 4 games right in a row here. You're going to play the Miami Dolphins at Lambeau. That's going to be a Thursday night game. And then you got the Lions at Detroit, Thursday night game. Then you're at the Seahawks for a Sunday night game. And then you've got the Saints coming to Lambeau for Monday Night Football. So you're going to be in prime time 4 weeks in a row there. But you're right, Deadfish. It's this thing's heating up, man. It's here. This is what you prepare for, as Bill Parcells said back in the day. This is why we lift all those weights. These moments right here, man. So I'm excited to see how the team fares. All right, Tim, you want to do a little PFF preview? That sound good to you, man?
Let's do it.
All right, let's hop into it here. Let's get this on the screen and make sure we can get it to where everybody can see it just fine. That's the one we're looking for right there. So here is what we've got as far as these metrics go. Actually, I'm going to go full screen, make it a little easier, and we'll come back out of that here in a second. But so overall for the Packers, the Packers Bears this week, let's look at the betting odds right now as it sits. So the spread is Chicago plus 5.5. That means the Packers are 5.5 point favorites currently. Money line is sitting at Chicago plus 202. Pretty good juice there on the Bears. The over-under is set at 40.5. All right, so that's what the over-under is at. Now, when you look at how the spreads moved this week, it opened at the Packers being a 6 point favorite, and then it jumped all the way to 6.5. And since then, it's gotten back down to 5.5. So it moved a half a point in favor of the Packers, and now it's back to 5.5 for the Packers. So it's interesting to see how the market moves. And like I said before, you got to be careful watching the market against Bears fans, because they are the most passionate fan base as far as betting for their team. And
I don't know why.
Michael Lombardi makes fun of him all the time because he is really, really embedded within the sportsbook world. He kind of brings that general manager's approach to grading the games before they're played and kind of coming up to what he thinks the point spread actually is, and that'll determine where you're getting the best value depending on whether you're going to DraftKings, you're going to BetUS, whoever it may be. But the way that he described it was like back when Mitch Trubisky was the MVP favorite as far as the betting. When I say that, the most money went on Mitch Trubisky to win MVP that year. And he's like, that tells you all you need to know about Chicago Bears and how they bet on football games. So that has definitely moved the line quite a bit. Just want to mention that. Now, as far as
can I mention something really quick before we move on?
Absolutely.
The Bears still suck.
That's
Dynamite drop in. Dynamite drop in, Monty. That broadcast school's really paid off. All right, team metrics. So they being the PFF, they've got the Packers overall ranked 10th, the Bears 24th. Power ranking on defense, they've got the Packers 19th, the Bears 7th. So that's what we've talked about all week, is them sitting there in the top 10 as far as power ranking. Many people would say they're a top 3 defense. Now, PFF's got them in the 7th spot. Power ranking on offense, the Packers are 13th, the Bears are 26th. Some would say the Bears are 32nd. So just keep that in mind as well. But the Packers have the edge there. Strength of schedule played so far, the Packers have played the 18th toughest schedule. The Bears have played the 32nd, Tim. Now, that's about to change, right? They've got their tough stretch coming up. That's what's wild to think about, is you're struggling right now. Wait till you get into these next 6 weeks, So average offensive snaps, the Packers have 68.6. The Bears have 70.4. Percentage of run plays, the Packers are at 45.5%. The Bears are at 36.8%, Tim. Like how the hell do you have one of the best defenses in the league and you're only running the ball 36.8% of the time? Don't answer that question, but you just answered the question of why are you a bad football team? You know what I'm saying? Like, take some pressure off of the rookie quarterback, man.
Yeah, good luck with that.
No doubt. Percentage of pass plays, obviously the Packers 54.5%. The Bears are throwing the ball 63.2% of the time. Your EPA per run on running plays, the Packers are minus 0.04 and the Bears are minus 0.12, so significantly worse running the football are the Bears as opposed to the Packers. And then EPA per pass, the Packers are at a positive 0.11. The Bears are at a negative 0.10. So that's how that shakes up there. Tim, you hit the nail on the head earlier. If you really want to simplify what's going on with this game, the Bears got a great defense. They got a horrible offense. The Packers have a great defense, and they've got kind of a above average, maybe good defense. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of how we're sitting right now. And again, the key is going to be takeaways, and that's where you got to look at this game and say it's a little bit of a wild card because the Bears are damn good at taking the ball away. I think they're third in takeaways currently right now. So the Packers are right up there in the top 3 too. So
this will be a good game for Jordan to literally get his legs under him again, and hopefully we keep him clean today. But facing a team that desperately needs a win and has a pretty decent defense, this will be a chance for Jordan to go out there and play some mistake-free football. Hopefully we see a clean game from Jay Money.
Yeah, no doubt. So as far as where the money lies in the spread, again, the Packers are 5.5-point favorites. That means the Bears are catching 5.5 points. So on that specific bet there, you've got, does it even show? It's not even showing right now, is it? It's not showing the value cash. Where is that at usually? Looks like they've moved this around. Well, that's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. All right, so the PFF projection is at minus 5.1, so they've got it a little bit closer than the 5.5 points. There. Oh, okay, here we go. Yeah, so they changed it up rather than saying, cash. They've got the dollar sign percentage, and then they got the bets percentage. So that's cool that they did it that way. So essentially, as far as the money, the overall money and the spread there, 88% of the money is on the Green Bay Packers to cover that 5.5-point spread, and 76% of the tickets or bets percentage is on the Packers there. As far as the money line, as a fan, this is what you want to key in on with the money, and it give you a really good idea of, okay, how is the public actually seeing this matchup? You've got 98% of the cash is on the Green Bay Packers. 92% of the bets are coming in on the Packers. So the public is really, really, really heavy on Green Bay here as far as the money line. You can look at that as a pro. You can look at it as a con, because, again, there's a reason Vegas can afford those pretty little drinks with the nice little umbrellas sitting in them. When the public is that heavy on a favorite, it does make me a little bit nervous. So total, though, on the market is sitting at 40.5 points in the over and under. It looks like the largest percentage of the money, the 62% of the money, is on the over. So they think the public thinks they're going to crack that 40.5 mark. PFF projections got it at 41.4 total points. And then the percentage of bets, 73% of the bets are on the over as well. So the public's definitely hammering the over in that regard. Anything else you want to hit here from the betting standpoint, Tim?
No, I think you covered it. I'm not the sports book expert, but I learn every week. I love when you do this. Thanks, Clay.
Yeah, I like doing it too because it just gives you an idea of where the public is, right? That's the big thing for me. So, all right, let's look at the PFF preview here. Let's rattle through this real quick. So let's go offense 11 versus nickel. So this is their offense versus our nickel. Talk to him, Tim. What's so funny, sir?
I'm just seeing this all on the screen now. I'm sorry.
Pretty rough, man. Pretty rough. So let's start with the offensive line. It looks like they've got Borum starting at left tackle because of the injury, I would imagine. 52.4. Then they've got Tevin. Is that Tevin Jenkins there, Tim?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, so that's Tevin Jenkins. You guys remember we mentioned him on the injury report, right? So let's go check the injury report out. Tevin Jenkins is out. So,
oh boy,
their best offensive lineman, according to PFF, is actually not playing. Okay, so that's why we want to cross-check these injuries as we move
LVN breakout game incoming.
Yeah, and keep in mind too, depending on whether they like to run weak side or not, that'll determine whether we play an over or an under front when we're in our base and even in our nickel. Really interested to see who's going to line up over that left guard position, whether it's a 3-tech or a 1-tech, depending on their tendencies and how they run the football. But at center, they've got Shelton. Actually, their center playing pretty good ball. Coleman Shelton, he is grading out as a 66.3. I know that's not like a great grade, but when you look at it across the league, he's 13th of 38 centers. I think we would all agree we wouldn't mind to have that level of play from our center position right now, right? Bates at right guard, if he is indeed the starter, he's grading out as a 56.9 currently. Then you've got Pryor at right tackle at a 68.8. He's the 27th highest graded guard is what they've got it listed at. So he's typically playing guard. Looks like he's going to kick over to right tackle for this game. Now, as far as our defensive front against them, and this is out of the nickel, this is them 11 personnel, us and our nickel 4-2-5 defense. LVN at a 47.6, got to get that up. And I'm excited for him to get more snaps to see if he can kind of stabilize that grade, start to raise it a little bit. They've got Carl Brooks listed as a starter here instead of Devontae Wyatt, 61.8. Kenny Clark is at a 50.7 now, and Rashawn Gary is leading that defensive front at a 66.9 currently. So I'm eager to see, I don't know why PFF does this sometimes. I guess it's because Carl Brooks has the higher grade, but you're probably going to see more Devontae Wyatt than Carl Brooks, Tim. Don't you think?
I would 100% agree. And I also look at, what I've been doing with PFF lately. Like you look at LVN, right? They got him at a 47.6 here. I'm like adding a few points, in my own version of PFF. I don't think LVN is that terrible.
Right.
And then maybe, same thing with Stokes. We've seen a lot of up and down with him, but there have been some moments where he's played pretty solid. But then again, you see some of these where you kind of agree. Quay's been a little bit underwhelming this year, so you look at that grade. But I think you're right, man. That's just kind of how they formulate these lineups. They just go by the grade that they have, and
probably snap percentage too, I would imagine.
I would think so too. I do agree with the sentiment that we will see more Carl Brooks in this game. I don't know. I don't know if he'd be starting in the nickel, but I would agree. I think it's going to be Kenny and Devontae Wyatt in there for sure. But I think we'll get a heavy dose of Carl Brooks for sure. And I think we'll get a heavy dose of JJ and Igbare as well in this game.
Yeah. Now, one of the bright points in their offense is Cole Kmet. He's the 21st highest rated tight end in the league at 68.4. And when you throw our linebackers in there, obviously we're talking about Quay Walker being a 47.7, Isaiah McDuffie being 57.1. I don't know why we don't have Edgerrin Cooper playing more snaps yet. Hopefully that'll happen this game, and maybe that'll change this up. But obviously Edgerrin Cooper has a much higher grade than that. Let me pull it real quick on my phone. Sorry for the dead time here, but I definitely want to pull that up.
It's interesting because do you think why would they have McDuffie out there over Cooper? Do you think it's just because of the nickel set? Because we're looking at nickel right now.
Yeah, that and also McDuffie's just getting more snaps.
Yeah, that's true.
If I remember correctly, right? So
Yep.
Going off of Cooper's grade here, looking on my phone, 69.6 is his PFF grade. He's hands down been the best. One of the best linebackers on our team. And then, of course, we're not even talking about Eric Wilson here, Tim, as we go to his PFF page.
Here's the guy.
Eric Wilson's current grade, 78.4. So, listen, I wanted to say I don't know why they're not putting those two backers out there. We know why. Quay Walker's a first-round pick, right? McDuffie played for Hafley at Boston College. There's got to be – I'm not saying they're showing favoritism. They're just more comfortable with them out there.
That's a great point. That's a great point. It's not about favoritism. It's not about, McDuffie played for
this guy.
It's a comfortability thing, right? You want to be comfortable with when you're calling those sets in from the booth. You want to be comfortable with your personnel. So that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. It's more than just the grades and the output. It's also about, who's wearing the green dot. If you take Quay off now, who's wearing the green dot, it shuffles things up quite a bit. So, same thing with McDuffie there. If you've gotten the majority of the snaps and certain looks, and you're more comfortable with him being on the field. So,
I mean, if it was favoritism, you'd see Zay McDuffie with the green dot instead of Wilson, right? You would think that they'd want to go with McDuffie. But obviously, Eric Wilson is just a baller, and it makes a lot of sense. If Quay's not on the field, that's your green dot until they take your advice and give it to X,
Yeah. Coach Lynn in the chat said, if we are in nickel, Cooper has to be on the field. I could not agree more. Agree more, Coach. I mean, he's shown that Go ahead, Tim.
Oh, I was going to say, and Quay as well, because you can fire Coop and then let Quay do what he does, which is, be a cover linebacker.
And this is going to be one of those games, too, where you want to break out that Tampa 2. You want to mug the line, but only bring 4, really only bring 3, and have one watching that middle rush lane. I think you'll just continue doing what you're doing there and make things difficult on the quarterback. You jump up to a 2-score lead, turn the dogs loose like you did in Tennessee, right? That should be the goal here. So, all right, as far as, like I said, Cole Kmet, and you talk about the linebacker matchup, that's how that sits there. When you look at the wide receivers, they got DJ Moore, 65.7, Keenan Allen, 60.9, Rome Odunze, 62.0. Nothing great there at wide receiver. But when you look at the corners for the Packers, if Jair Alexander plays, 74.9 is his PFF grade. They got Eric Stokes at a 51.1. Keyshawn Nixon is in the slot here in this graphic, sitting at a 60.2. Now, the question will be, is Evan Williams healthy? Okay. If Evan Williams plays in this game, what you're probably going to see is Javon Bullard play slot and kick Keyshawn out to the boundary. That's what I'm thinking you'll probably see happen.
Especially if Ja, for some reason, doesn't go.
Yeah, exactly. And when you look at Javon Bullard's PFF grade, let me pull it up real quick on my phone and give you guys an idea there without having to go out. If we go off the screen, it's going to go back to the main screen. It just goes all to hell. I apologize having to do it this way. Javon Bullard is graded out of the 54.7 currently, so not much better than Stokes according to PFF. Now his run defense graded a 74, solid, obviously. So, there's a number of different ways you can look at this. We just got through saying after looking at the injury report, Tim, play it safe with Alexander and Williams here because it is the Bears. They don't have a dynamic offense. I could see that. I could see that too. So if those guys don't play, you're going to be looking at probably Stokes and Nixon on the outside, Stokes and Valentine on the outside with Nixon in the slot, and you'd have Javon Bullard playing safety. I imagine that's what the look would be like. So let's go now and pull up Carrington Valentine PFF grade, give you guys an idea of what he's looking at this year, 63.1. So Carrington Valentine, in my opinion, needs to be playing over Stokes no matter what the call is. that's just how I'm kind of seeing that. So hopefully
That's where I'm at too, Clayton. I agree with that because I'm not going to fully dog out Eric Stokes. I think, he earned a lot of my respect just the way he rehabbed from those injuries and just to even see the field again. And I think what he's proven at this point is that he's serviceable, man. That's a guy you want in your rotation. You don't feel great about him being your guy, your starter, but I feel really good about Stokes coming in, second, third on that depth chart as a rotational guy,
Yep, definitely. All right, now to the safeties. Whew, this looks pretty. If Evan Williams is healthy, man, my goodness. Xavier McKinney is an 89.5, the third highest graded safety.
Here's the guy.
Then you got Evan Williams at 87.4, the fourth highest graded safety.
Here's the guy.
Man, Tim, they talk about revamping that safety room. My God, it's beautiful. It is.
I told you, build the Goody statue already, right here, just off of that alone. The guy completely flipped the safety room inside of about 95 days and just got her done.
Crushed it, man. Absolutely crushed it. So quarterback and running back for the Bears. You've got Caleb Williams at a 60.3.
That's terrible.
That's 33rd graded quarterback in the league. And I got to be honest with you, Tim, it feels a lot worse than that 60.3. I kind of feel like PFF has been very, very polite to Caleb Williams. I mean, we've shown some of the statistics and everything, and he is. As a matter of fact, I can't pull it up on screen because I did put Mike Tyson's ass on the screen as well with this tweet. But I'm going to read off a tweet to you guys that someone had put out that shows just how bad our boy Caleb Williams has been. Actually, no, it wasn't that tweet. Yeah, it was. We can't put that up there. So I was trying to find out, where is that graphic at? Come on, where are you at? Must be under replies. I don't know why Twitter does that. I want to read it because he is like so far away from being towards the top of the league. There it is right there. Bang. Okay, so I'm going to try to pull it up on screen for you guys just so you can see it here because it is atrocious, absolutely atrocious, man. Let me save this. Give me just a second. Let's go podcasting here. Jeez.
I mean, I'm looking at Caleb Williams and I'm thinking, we just looked at the numbers like clean pocket passer rating versus, not clean pocket passer rating. And it's almost like flip a coin. Do you want to rush him all day and put pressure on him and let him run around and do stupid things with the football? Or do you want to fall back into coverage and let him stand in the pocket and make stupid decisions with the football? So
right.
I feel pretty good about either way, on our approach.
So this graphic right here, guys, and I'm going to try to explain for everyone on the podcast here. It's you got running vertically on the left. You've got catchable throw rate, meaning the ball in which the quarterback threw was catchable. Okay, not perfect, catchable. Okay, and it's got a percentage starting at 65% all the way up to 80%. That's running vertically. And then running horizontally across the bottom, you got pressure to sack rate. And it starts at 35% and goes down to 10, or goes up to 10, down to 10, but 10 being the better number, if that makes sense. So everybody in the upper right are kind of your top performers here on this graphic, right? Caleb Williams is the worst quarterback, okay? Pressure to sack rate is somewhere around, looks like it's about 32%, maybe 32%. And then his catchable throw rate is well below 65%. It's probably 63%.
That's terrible.
So he's inaccurate. He's, his pressure to sack rate is absolutely horrible. You see the guy holding on to the football way too long. Now, listen, there's some of it in the play call and design. I guarantee you they're going to try to tweak some things this week. We're probably going to get some red looks this week, Tim, and what that means is unscouted looks, things that we haven't prepared for because they do have a new OC stepping in as they relieve Shane Waldron of his duties. So just interesting to see. And, guys, it's not even close. If you could see this graphic for those on the pod, he is so far removed from every other quarterback in the league. I mean, it's worse than Justin Fields in 2022. It's worse than Zach Wilson in 2021. You guys remember how bad Bryce Young was last year? It's worse than him last year. It is just absolutely horrible.
That's terrible.
Yeah, thank you, Chuck. I agree. It is terrible. So, again, why did I mention all that? Because it's fun to make fun of the Bears, but also Caleb Williams, 60.3. That's a very generous grade, my opinion. So, all right, that is the Bears. Actually, let's do this. Let's do one more. Let's go 12 personnel, to our base, and let's see what changes here. Look at that base set. That looks a little bit better, don't it, Tim? You got Eric Wilson, 78.4, the ninth highest graded linebacker in football.
Here's a guy.
Edgerrin Cooper, 69.6, the 21st highest graded linebacker. So your base defense.
Here's a dog.
It's a lot better. Now, they don't get any better either when they go to their 12 personnel. Gerald Everett is their backup tight end that'll come into play. His overall offensive grade is a 45.9. That's some cheeks play right there. And then when it comes to their running back, you got DeAndre Swift. He's grading out as a 61.9 currently. Nothing to write home about. Let's see if that changes when we go back to nickel. I don't think it does. Maybe it does though. No, he's still
yeah, but he's a guy that you can't afford to just overlook either.
Oh no, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you guys know that Khalil Herbert got traded, and he was on Twitter saying, "Thank God" after he got traded. So, interesting how that works.
And
right?
you thought Micah Parsons was upset in Dallas. Boy, look at Chicago.
No doubt. All right, let's go to our 11 personnel offense against their nickel defense. Obviously, their defense is solid. They've got Martin on the right here, and I don't know why they don't have him ranked. And again, I'm not really familiar with their defense, but let's start with our offense here. Offensive line, Rasheed Walker, 63.1, Elton Jenkins, 60.2, definitely having a down year there for Big E. Josh Myers is 49.9, 37th highest graded center in the league out of 38. So pretty much the bottom of the league as far as PFF is concerned. Sean Ryan, 61.5. He is our third best or third highest graded lineman here on the graphic. And then, of course, Zach Tom at right tackle, 83.3, not highest graded tackle in the league. So
can we just clone Zach Tom? Can you just give me four
me
more Zach Toms on that O-line?
Give me six more and let's put him at linebacker too. That player, man. He's so good at the football. So their defensive front, they've got listed at right outside linebacker or their edge defender, Jacob Martin. His grade is an 84.1, but he's played very few snaps here, 52 snaps on the line, 1 in the box. So he's only played 53 snaps if I'm looking at this correctly. Although last game he got, it looks like, what did he end up with here? 22 snaps. So he's getting more snaps, and he did grade out pretty well there to 84.1. In the middle, or it says right in, and then again, this is their nickel set. DeMarcus Walker is grading out at a 68.1 currently. Let's see, we got Dexter Senior is a 70.5, and he's getting a ton of snaps. Last game, he looked like he had, 49 snaps on defense. So he's definitely one of the big dogs up front for them. And then, of course, Montez Sweat, we mentioned him. He's grading out at 70.0. I think he's a pretty good pass rusher. He's 6'6", 262, got good lean off the edge, physical freak, top player. And we had an injury report on him. Let's look at the simple.
I think he was questionable. Yeah, Montez Sweat, Tarvarius Moore, questionable.
If Montez Sweat does not play in this game, that could be huge.
But
at the same time,
he's probably their best defensive player right now.
I feel like he is. I've heard other Packer fans dog him, but I really do feel like he's their best defensive player. That's just me personally, or at least on the front, right? Now, again, we've got Zach Tom going up against him. You feel like Zach Tom can handle that assignment. If they do try to mix and match and put Sweat on the left side, you feel like Walker can hold up there too. So you're not overly concerned. The main thing you'd be focused or worried about is the interior, right? And really right here, it's not showing anyone unless we go to base and something changes. Let's see real quick. If we go to their base defense, who else pops in there? Pickens actually comes in at a 43.4. So, yeah, it doesn't get any better. And, again, there is DeMarcus Walker. Again, looks like they're kicking him over to the right defensive end when you go base. At least PFF's projection. Again, take it for what you want or what you will. So let's move on to our tight end against their linebacker. Tucker Kraft, 61.9. Again, PFF has not been generous to him. You talk to people around the league, they see him as a top 10 tight end. Again, I think there's some inconsistencies in his game, but I love where Tucker Kraft's at. I think he's going to be one of the best tight ends in the game.
I agree.
Next year.
Whether Montez Sweat plays or not, I think Tucker's going to have a game.
Yep. Bingo. And then at their linebacker position, some would say that's the strength of their defense. You have got TJ Edwards grading out as a 64.2 currently. This is their nickel set. And then Tremaine Edmonds, I should say, he's grading out a 59.4. And you can see with Tremaine, he got paid off that 81.9 in 2022, Tim. And every other year, 57, 59, 41, 48, 81.9, 56, 59.4. People were seeing these PFF grades go, I thought their defense was great. Guys, they take the ball away as good as anybody in the league. That's what you got to be aware of here. And if we were to move to the safety position, actually, we just finished up. Yeah, let's move to the safety position. Here's one of the strengths of their team. Elijah Hicks playing safety, 73.0 is his current PFF grade. The majority of his snaps come at the free safety position, although he will move in the box. He's got 184 at free safety, 51 in the box, 11 on the D line, 21 in the slot. So they move him around quite a bit. And then opposite him, you've got Kevin Byard, who's grading out at 82.3 currently. The majority of his snaps come at free safety, 344. He's got 142 in the box, though, and 55 in the slot. So their safety room, pretty stout. Again, Byard is the 9th highest graded safety, and Hicks is the 19th.
Definitely not a game to throw a ball up into triple coverage.
No. Got to lean on that run, man. Got to protect the football. Got to.
I want to see Josh Jacobs north of 25 carries in this game.
Yeah. And when you look at their cornerback room, you've got Jalen Johnson's grading out of 73.9. I think he led the league in interceptions last year, so you got to be careful throwing the ball around him. Gordon in the slot, Kyler Gordon, is sitting at a 66.7. You're seeing progression every year there, so he's playing pretty solid football, probably the best football he's played so far in his young career. Tyreek Stevenson, the guy who started the slide by talking crap to the crowd and then running over and batting the Hail Mary up.
Let's go. 9 routes for number 9 all day. Let's go.
Keep him on him. His defensive grade's a 56.2 currently. And isn't it crazy, Tim? That game that happened was week 8, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm.
So week 8, is that right? 8? Yeah, weekly, right? Yeah. Okay. So he had, 63 snaps, and then magically it drops down to, 46 snaps. And then it goes down to, what is that right there? 37 snaps. Every week since he screwed that Hail Mary up, Tim, and they went on the slide, he's getting less and less snaps. I
can't wait to see Scoot put this guy in a blender. I cannot wait.
So when you look at our receivers out of 11 personnel against those said DBs, Romeo Dobbs, 64.9. He majority of the time plays boundary X. You have got Jaden Reed in the slot at 71.6, and you got Christian Watson at a 66.8. What it comes down to, Tim, is you might see a little more Bo Melton than you normally do if you're going to, if you get into a situation where you need to pass the football. What I'd like to see is try to abuse Stevenson.
Yep.
Okay. Let's try to abuse Tyreek Stevenson a little bit. Stay away from Jalen Johnson. Although if you like your scheme, your hat count in the scheme, and you want to throw specific route combinations out there to his side, no big deal, right? Let Romeo Dobbs kind of play in that phone booth. But Reed here against Kyler Gordon in the slot looks like a pretty good matchup, too. 71.6 versus a 66.7. That's a lot closer than I expected. I think the big thing for the Packers is going to be this right here, the running game. Josh Jacobs, 83.9, the 6th highest graded running back in the league. He's 4th in the league in rushing right now. Let's run the freaking rock out of 11 personnel at this team, man.
Oh, yeah. Please give me more.
When you look at their base versus our 12, this is where it gets really interesting. So, again, Josh Jacobs, 83.9 grade. You bring Ben Sims in now at the tight end position to play you. He's a 68. He's grading out higher than Tucker Kraft is. And my man it's like they continue to put more on his plate. And I'm excited about Ben Sims. I talked about him a lot last year, 60.5. Pretty damn good grade for a first-year player. And then 2024, he's climbed up to that 68.0. And, again, we use him in that U position. He can play H. You can also flex him out a little bit and use him as a decoy. In that regard, you guys remember the wheel route earlier in the year. He showed great hands to this point. He showed great balance, body control, and he just seems to understand the offense. There's not been one play that I've seen where I'm like, Ben Sims looks lost there. He always knows his assignment, and that's half the battle. And we've seen him get a couple different pancake blocks when they bring him into this position that you're seeing here, playing what we call U. So if you guys are wondering what I'm saying, Y and U, Tucker Kraft is your traditional tight end. We refer to that as Y. Ben Sims would be the U, who he would kind of play. Sometimes they'll push him down in here into the wing spot. They'll put him in the backfield, part of that double sidecar, or even in a kind of that pistol set with him offset wing to be that lead blocker. So,
and he's interchangeable as well because he's a versatile tight end, just like Tucker Kraft. I feel like he's a good compliment to Tuck Norris out there.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's go to the chat real quick. Drew D says, this is not a game for Love to play hero ball because the Bears defense getting big plays is the only way we can lose. Completely agree, Drew. Play within the scheme. Don't be afraid to punt. Daniel Whelan is a damn weapon, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Keep Caleb Williams pinned down inside his 10 and let them make the mistakes, and you lean on the run. Go down and get a field goal. Go down and get another field goal. Go down and get 7 points and just tighten that clamp on them, right?
Yep.
I would love to see Matt LaFleur defer in this game. I don't think it's going to happen. If he wins the toss, he'll probably take the ball again. I would kind of like to, hey, look, all right, let's put all the pressure on Caleb right out of the gate. I would love to see that personally.
Yep,
So
I agree.
All right, Dead Fish in the chat. This is our year. Packers win the Super Bowl every 14 years. 96, 2010. It's going to be 2024. I like the way you're thinking, Dead Fish. Still on the table right now, man. And Aaron Rodgers, this is the guy I was talking about. Shout out to Aaron. Thank you for sending the playoff simulator there, Aaron. Appreciate you, buddy. We actually covered it earlier in the show. He said, yeah, here we go. Okay. I was watching from the beginning. Glad you enjoyed the playoff machine. I've been using it for the past few years. Yeah, we'll use that moving forward, man. We appreciate you taking the time to send it over. It definitely kind of gives you, as like Tim said, as we get later in the season, it's going to become even more of a valuable tool. So appreciate you, buddy. All right, Tim. I think we've hit everything pretty extensively here. I was going to get into a little NFL Pro, but since we're up against the gun here as far as the time goes, we will hit that tonight. So if that's all right with you, we'll approach it that way and kind of get into that this evening. I love NFL Pro, by the way. NFL Pro is awesome. Some of the metrics they use. We'll hit on a lot of different things. We'll look at the point spread from their angle in DraftKings, all that good stuff. It looks like they got it at 5.5 as well. But we'll also show you the key insights and matchups for the Packers-Bears game coming up here. So
awesome.
Tim, anything else you got here, man? Anything else that might have sparked a thought while I was rattling off way too much information there?
Just looking at this, I mean, we'll get into the weeds a little more tonight, as we break this down further, and then obviously pregame tomorrow. But I think if the Packers don't shoot themselves in the foot as much as they've been doing in recent memory, I think it's a foregone conclusion we get this dub. And I'm not taking any opponent lightly, even the Bears. But I think as long as we're not getting too cute in the red zone, Tupac LaFleur, no jet motion in the red zone, please.
Just pound the rock.
Just A-gap runs with Josh Jacobs, please, inside that red zone. But, same thing with the penalties. One thing that's been a great thing that I've noticed, I think we talked about this last week, is Rasheed Walker has progressively cleaned up his play as we've gone through this season. You don't see the false starts. You actually see him start to get away with some of these holds. Protecting J Love's backside. You can, if you got your hand position right, you wear the right color gloves for the matchup that day, you can sneakily get away with some holds there over the edge. And, like we said, we talked about this Bears defense. So I think if offensively we don't shoot ourselves in the foot and make those stupid mistakes, I think we should easily win this ball game. So looking forward to breaking it down some more tonight.
Yeah, I think so too, man. You just gotta take care of the football. Got to control the middle eight, and like I said, let them make the mistakes. Don't be ashamed to come out of here and win by 4 points and not even cover the spread. Just get it done. Don't get cute. So we're on the same page for sure, Tim. Nick McSwain on the same page too. He says, even though this show sucks, y'all should still hit the like button. So we appreciate it, Nick. Y'all would hit that like button on the way out. That'll help boost the algae. And again, I've not been promoting that enough. And I hate doing it, but it is something that's vital to the channel. So thank y'all for putting up with that, as well as the ads, everything that goes into everything with the show. It's all a necessary. I don't want to say evil, but it's necessary to kind of keep things going. But with that being said, we'll be back tonight. If you want to help me out here, Tim, as we
For those of you listening on the pod,
thank you for making us a part of your day. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world. And go Pack Go.